This is Ami Patel with ACL, hopefully familiar to everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We want to talk a little bit about phase 2 and then our new bonus phase opportunity for the Social Care Referrals Challenge. So again, appreciate everyone being on. With the next slide, just looking into the agenda, we'll start off with some introductions. We'll have a chance to see who's on the call. And then we'll spend some time looking at the timeline of the challenge so everyone is aware of how each phase falls in with each other. And then we'll spend most of the time discussing the bonus phase. And then lastly, leave a little bit of time at the end to also talk about kind of where you are as far as progress on phase 2 of the competition. So we do anticipate most of the webinar will be open discussion and chance for Q&A. So hopefully you all are ready to be engaged. So let's see, next slide. We'll go ahead and do some introductions here, just sort of keeping it informal. I will be joined by Kelly Cronin, who most of you are familiar with here on the ACL side. So she should be joining shortly. And then, as you all know, we are also pleased to be joined by Evelyn Glaco and the EMI team. So Evelyn, did you want to introduce yourself and your team first?
Sure, I've met many of you already, so good afternoon, everyone, or good morning if you're still on the West Coast. I'm Evelyn Glaco or Gallego from EMI. My team and I at EMI Advisors provide technical assistance to the ACL Challenge Program. You also hear me as part of the Gravity Project, so work closely also as a program manager there. And then down the list, I'll have Gabriela introduce herself.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gabriela, and this afternoon I'm behind the scenes. I'll put my camera on just to say hi to everyone. I'm a health equity manager with EMI, and it's great to be with all of you today.
Demarie?
Hi, everyone. You probably have received some emails from me and Ami, but my name is Demarie Tope, and I work for EMI, and I am an analyst with them. And I am also Evelyn Glaco's special assistant. So if you ever need to contact her, you will probably also be in contact with me. And I'll hand it back to Ami to start introductions for the rest of the teams.
Oh, wait, we have Kate. Sorry, one more EMI.
Really? Kate, you're hiding. You've been off on PTO for a week and I forgot.
Yes, taking my daughter to college. So alas, I'm back. So my name is Kate Kiefert, and I'm a contractor with EMI Advisors, providing technical assistance for the ACL project. I usually do anything from policy, governance, strategy, population health, public health, interoperability, all sorts of things. So happy to be here and provide any assistance to you all.
Great, thank you. All right, so we'll just go down the list here of participants and ask that you all unmute yourselves, introduce yourselves, and include which challenge team you are with or supporting. So I think the easiest way would be to just list everyone's name out here. So I have Seth first. Do you mind going?
No, not at all. Hi, everybody. Seth Blumenthal from American Medical Association. I'm part of the Firewire team on behalf of AMA Innovations, which is a for-profit wholly owned subsidiary of AMA. So I'm excited to be here, and really just my passion is if we can find ways to use technology, or even technology that operates at the edges of policy, to try to just make things easier for docs and everybody else in the ecosystem. And so happy to be here and excited for today's session.
Great, we're right there with you. And I know Aaron is also part of your team, so you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, Amy, how are you? I'm glad to be on the phone. Really looking forward to getting to work with the whole community. We're all doing really important work, and I know I can learn a lot from everyone.
Great, thank you. I have Beth next.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Beth D Hart. I work with SC Thrive. I'm the project coordinator on our challenge, and our challenge is called Thrive Hub. And we also have, I guess that's everything. about me, yeah. And then we also have Patty Sims on the call with us. She is on our team as well. She's with ProTech, which is our system developer.
Great, thank you. And how about Bob?
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Bob Cree. I'm with the Bright Street Group, and I'm part of the team from Southeast Michigan. I think officially we're called Closing the Loop in Southeast Michigan, and happy to be here as well, and looking forward to an interactive discussion.
All right, and then Dan.
Hi everyone, I'm Dan McGovern. I'm with Northwell Health, and our team is collaborating with the New York eHealth Collaborative as well as Alliance for Better Health for kind of a statewide solution that is scalable beyond, the walls of New York State. So we're also very interested in moving forward and collaborating across the country on a solution.
Okay, thank you. And then Greg Bloom.
Hi there, I lead the Open Referral Initiative. We develop standards for resource directory data exchange, and working with a few different ACL awardees, including folks in St. Louis, and advising a few other groups, and working with the ServiceNet project, which my partners at Benetech launched, and now are supporting us to transition to a new framework. And ServiceNet is a set of tools for comparing multiple resource directories to each other, facilitating exchange of updates, and supporting collaboration. And looking forward to learn more about this and to see if we can be helpful to any of y'all.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Next I have Harpreet.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Harpreet Gulati. I'm the Director of Population Health Informatics with Northwell Health.
Great, thank you. That's one of our New York teams. Next we have Lily.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lily Dover. I am a Network Engagement Manager at United Way for Southeastern Michigan. I'm also a part of that team that Bob Crea mentioned earlier, closing the loop together in Southeast Michigan. Nice to be here with you all.
Okay, thank you. And I know Patty, you're also part of the South Carolina team. Would you like to say hello?
Yeah, I'm Patty Sims. I work for ProTech Solutions, who builds a Thrive Hub system, Thrive, and my dog.
Great.
Can we get a list of emails, including the dog's email, please?
That's right. Okay, Teresa.
Hi, Teresa Gerard. I'm with Guardian Group and part of the Missouri Aging Services Data Collaborative. And I'm in charge of the data sharing between health information exchanges and SHARPs, but glad to kind of reconnect with the SC Thrive group, as well as I've talked to the United Way of Salt Lake group, and working through kind of United Way worldwide and AIRS. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And lastly, Toby.
Hi, I'm Toby Landau. I'm with the New York eHealth Collaborative, with the New York contingency.
Great, thank you. Okay, anyone I may have missed? I think we got everyone. It's wonderful. Thanks again for being on. This is a great group. Again, hopefully everyone's ready for some open discussion here. But first, before we dive in, next slide, want to just take a quick look at this visual here that provides a timeline of where we are with the challenge now that we have a new phase. So, currently you all are focusing on phase 2 submissions, which are now due on November 3rd. And then our aim is to complete the judging of that phase and the review of that by early December. And then coinciding with that will be the bonus phase period. So we'll kicking that off with you all today, and the submissions for the bonus phase will be due on December 3rd. And then depending on the number of awards or the scope of the concepts that we have with the bonus phase, we do anticipate some ongoing work with that, opportunities to present or demonstrate that'll kind of get us into the early part of next year. So of course, more to come on that, but just adding that to the timeline there. And then lastly, we'll have phase 3. So implementation phase, any of the teams that are awarded at the end of phase 2 will compete until about February or March of next year, keeping things a bit flexible there, of course, depending on the number of teams, but we'll of course share a lot more details as we get closer for phase 3. But hopefully this just gives you a sense of kind of how all 3 phases will move along at the same time over the next couple of months. And then at the bottom there, we also wanted to just share as reminders some industry dates. If your teams want to consider opportunities to present your solutions at conferences or the HL7 Connectathons, we have those dates there as reminders as well, and how they follow along in the timeline. So again, this is just a quick look at the next few months and how we plan to move forward with judging across each of the phases as well. But if you have questions, just let us know, and we will definitely share these slides afterwards with everyone who's attended. And I also saw the chat about the list of attendees. We did share that around, but yeah, thank you. We do have the list of the awarded teams for phase 2 there on the acl.gov site, but let us know if you want any specific contact information as well. All right, so with that, I think we could just dive right into the bonus phase, and I'll turn it over to Evelyn to go to the next slide.
Thanks, Emmy. Actually, I'm going to have Kate go first because she's going to review the first goal. So, and again, welcome everyone. Kate and I will tag team here to go through the 2 goals that were included in the bonus phase document that was shared with all of you. And Kate will start with the directory goal.
Yes, great. Thank you, everyone. So there's going to be 2 goals. Next slide, please. There's going to be 2 goals. The first one I'm going to speak to is more around directory federation. So that directory to directory exchange for resources, for community resources. So this is what the bonus phase is looking for here is an open source components, enabling transformation, matching, collaborative editing, and syncing of service directory information across multiple technical systems. Seeing as a lot of times there's a lot of disparate resource directories out there. There's an opportunity to understand what the governance, but also the syncing of all these different resources directories are out there. And then this also leads to the second goal, which Evelyn's going to walk through. Wait, it's right there. I can walk through it here, Evelyn, if you'd like to go.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I'll do a deeper dive. The slides are directory goes first. So I'll speak to mapping taxonomy. So this is the goal where we are encouraging you to find ways or present ways to represent taxonomies and control terminologies. And I'll walk through what that means. And this is supporting both data exchange between health and social care settings. So there's opportunities to think through on how to facilitate mapping and crosswalking of taxonomies that we know right now are siloed. Next slide. Back to you, Kate.
Just diving deeper into the directory federation goal. So the judging criteria is going to be broken down in 5 different ways. You can see the breakout here. So with governance, technical functions, organization and user support, technical architecture, integration, and evolving functions. Each are weighted a little bit differently. So, and we'll see as we go through the next couple of slides on some of the details we're looking for that might be current functionality, current capabilities versus evolving capabilities. So you can demonstrate how you think your proposed solutions will be meeting some future needs for this effort. Next slide, please. So the first one around the governance, and governance is often thought of kind of after the fact, but with Directory Federation, we identify that it's very important to understand what are the interactions between the different governance models and the communities and the concepts that and the proposals that you guys are going to be submitting. We're going to want for you to describe different current or planned approaches around identifying, using, and managing community resources. What are the inclusion and exclusion criteria around around the different resources, and defining those requirements. And that might be, one community resource might be specifically for veterans, or one resource might be specifically for domestic violence victims. So understanding what are the different details, demographics, and inclusion criteria around those different resources to make sure that referrals are delivered to the right resources to provide the right services to meet the needs of the clients. We're also going to be asking for you to describe your approach around policy compliance, and that could be around HIPAA, privacy, your security requirements, and also aligning to US CDI and some of those different data elements and classes within US CDI. Next slide, please.
Hey, before you go on, is it possible we could ask some questions about that, or would you rather us wait till the end?
It's up to Evelyn and Ami.
Yeah, I think we can ask questions if that's all right.
Yep.
Just the last bullet there, I was trying to digest it real quick. Describe approach for policy compliance in regards to sharing the PII of the directory, or it's a federated directory,
well,
right? And the information we're sharing is PII open source. I'm not sure what we're looking for there. Maybe a little more to that.
I think that what I would kind of put in there around the approach to the policy and compliance is that so there might be different governance approaches that might be community based, it might be statewide based, you might be building off of existing state policies or federal policies, and then there might be some specific data and not necessarily like patient identified information, but actual data sharing policies that must be adhered to that are requirements within your community, whatever your defined community might be. So like, for instance, and I'm just going to throw this out there, New York State might have a different set of policies that might have to be adhered to for sharing this information, or who has access to this information. How are you keeping this information secure? Of course, different from identified patient information, provider and resource information isn't kind of on the same level, but how are you actually adhering to those different policies? Evelyn and Nami, anything to add to that?
Yep, no, that's what I was thinking of Greg had the same question on the chat, so I was just looking at his, so I think that could be it. It's sort of like who has access to this information immediately, and maybe again, this will be very locally driven. There could be situations, especially when we think of domestic violence, right? If, as an example, if there's referrals out, maybe to some shelter or some activity somewhere that the family or the individual is protected. Again, it could be very locally driven. So those were the things I was thinking of.
Maybe a friendly amendment then would be to like HIPAA privacy and high trust security requirements just seem to confound it a little bit to me. I think we're talking about access controls and what information is public of, you would want to mask the location of a women's shelter.
Yeah.
Understood, right? Has nothing at all to do with HIPAA or high trust in my mind. And that confused me.
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
And those are absolutely example ones. We can actually, there might be other security requirements that are required for those things. So we can make that adjustment and put different examples.
Like the governance entity would define all the security requirements, of course, for that whole platform, but that specific federation of directory information, unless it's, protected in some way, there's certain limitations on PII and how states can use it and store it, but I don't think that's in the scope here.
Yeah, that's fair. And Steph also put in, Blumenthal put into the chat around intersections with TEFCA. And I think that anything within here would be in alignment with, any of the emerging frameworks, as TEFCA isn't 100% complete. So absolutely, those types of things would be important. Any more questions on this? And thank you for that clarification. We'll absolutely make that update. Next slide, please. The next slide kind of goes more into the technical functions. And again, this is going to be about 25% of the judging criteria. And what we're looking for here is around what are the current capabilities or planned capabilities that your solution has for querying and processing service provider information that might be existing in other provider directories. Also, if you can describe your current or planned capabilities to match resources across the systems, and then how are you actually maintaining the data governance of those specific resource records, and that could be aligned back to the data governance or the governance part, where it might be some community driven governance, and people have the understanding and the roles and responsibilities of who is doing what technical service is happening here, what are the data senders, data users, that those different that federated model, and how is everybody understanding what the capabilities are and who is doing what service for which part of the data sharing. Also, describe the user interface approach for healthcare or social service operational staff to find the services. Is it going to be through a platform? Is it going to be through their existing platforms? Just understand, kind of explain the capabilities of the user access to that information. And then also we're going to be asking to describe any current or planned integration points with this that will support the closed loop referral management. Is that going to be with the clinical EHR, the HIE, any of the community resource referral platforms? And then if the resource directory, federated resource directory is going to be separate, how are all those integration points interacting, and how is that going to be supported? Next slide, please. And I will, we'll get to some of the questions here in just a second. I'll just go through the rest of the judging criteria, and then we can make sure there's specific questions and we can do those clarifications. The next one talks about the 10% around the evolving functions. This one is talking about describing any current or planned activities around using national FHIR-based standards to support registration, authentication, and authorization of the CBO service providers. How are you describing any of the current or planned activities for credentials and authorization and best practice of these standards? Also, demonstrate any current or planned capabilities to use standardized open APIs or smart on FHIR applications. And then finally, around current and or planned piloting of the FHIR implementation guides as defined under the ONC FAST solutions. We understand that there's some of these capabilities that are going to be already operational or in development, and there's some that are going to be more planned. We want to understand what is kind of your roadmap to scaling to these evolving functions. Let's see. I think that, there's one more. So the next slide speaks to, if you go to the next slide, please, talks about the organization and next slide, please.
No, it's the previous one.
It's the previous one, great.
Yeah.
So the next one talks about the organization and end user support. What we want to understand, this is 20% of the judging criteria, is how are you defining and showing what the current priority or community networks you're going to support? So rather than just being kind of a theory saying we can do this, what is actually your priority community network and your area that will be served? Also, you're going to be describing your scalability approaches to meet the community network organization needs. And then what is your description of how are you going to support any of the workflow assistance, training guides, any priority stakeholder end user groups, and just doing the general priorities of supporting the people and the organizations that will be using this directed federated system. There's also how are you going to be, you're going to be just describing the directed exchange and what through subscription attribution approaches. So how are you going to be setting those different, which groups are going to be able to use the federated service, and how are you going to be able to organize those and attribute the appropriate services to the different organizations and maintain those different capabilities. Next slide, please. Great. And this one is also goes to kind of the base technical architecture and integration. It's going to be 20%. This is going to be, you're going to be describing the capabilities and approach to open source API architecture for resource directory management. You're also going to be required to have a documented approach for supporting local, regional, or national resource directory services, as they're often at many of those different levels. And then also, is there going to be a defined approach for the directories within the EHRs, HIEs, and referral platforms, really understanding what is the technical architecture that that you are working with for this federated model. So I believe that those are all of the slides for the directory one. And we'll go ahead and take a moment to, and I know I saw a few things up. Sorry, I can't read in the chat and talk at the same time. We can start to go through some of the chat questions and just clarify a few things, and Ami and Evelyn can help fill in some gaps.
So the question here, I think you answered already at TAFCA. So Seth also had a question if the bonus phase is targeting existing directories or products that use directories. So we had imagined, and Ami, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was open. So if you are working with an existing directory, how will you work with them? And if you are creating a new one or have to create a new one because one doesn't exist, how would you go about it?
Yeah, that's right. It could be both.
Thank you.
Okay, the second, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say just one thing also with TAFCA, just because what the current state is right now is talking about, different querying capabilities. And while the alignment can be with TAFCA, TAFCA might not also have the specific requirements that might get down to this local level for social referral platforms. So alignment where possible, but understanding that there might be other considerations that you all might be proposing to meet some of the local community needs. Okay, go ahead, Evelyn.
I think Greg, you clarified it. There could be some cases, and so I think that's also something you could figure out again locally. And then Aaron, you had a question, what did priority community mean? So the examples were like community-based organization, community referral platform, state agencies, data intermediaries, and healthcare organizations. So just group them all together.
Sorry, I'm still not tracking.
So defines current priority community.
Could you go back to the slide that has it though? Like there it is, right? Defines current priority community network. What is that?
So those are the actors. So just think of the actors. Who is exchanging data?
The people in the network.
Yeah,
participants.
Well, this would be the entities, right? So
organizations, okay.
Health, yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Right. So just based on what you're proposing, who is your priority community, and who are the CBOs or who are the individuals using those directories, that kind of thing.
And can you speak a little bit more to, in round one, we were developing essentially like designs and proposals. In this round, are we developing proposals, or are we offering proposals then going to actually build specific outputs? Like, are we building technology in this, or is it like a proposal for what a potentially scalable system might look like, or both?
Yeah, at this stage, the bonus phase submission will be just a design and a proposal. So, what is the concept that could help meet each of these goals described here? So not looking for any kind of demonstration or specific technical solution at this point.
To propose for the bonus round, or are you saying like the bonus round will still just be developing the conceptual framework and sort of a blueprint for development? Like
conceptual framework.
Okay, so if we were to propose something and get the funding from the bonus round, it still just lets us do sort of research and design work. We're not necessarily trying to build a scalable technical infrastructure if we get the funding.
Well, if you get the funding with the bonus phase, I think we'll have some open discussion on what's possible from there.
Okay.
I think ideally, we would like to see something sort of implemented or in place or demonstrated at that point. But we're just offering the flexibility depending on, how many teams are awarded or who we're working with and which goals and that kind of thing. So yeah, we would leave that door open though, but that's after you're awarded.
Okay, so
That-
just
Go
go ahead,
ahead.
Greg. So
No, go ahead.
okay, thanks. I was just gonna, so it's been a little confusing, and I think my confusion is evaporating, which is good. So I think the purpose of the bonus phase and the way to relate it to phases 1 and 2 is that phases 1 and 2 were to bring out from the private sector proposed solutions to make social care referrals easier for everybody involved, so that they happen more frequently and the loop is closed and data are collected, et cetera, et cetera. So this bonus phase is about, okay, regardless of the actors that are implementing, using, say like a national network for social care referrals, the purpose of the bonus phase, the goal 1, is to elicit from the teams proposals for that national network and how it might work along those different criteria. So it's essentially a white paper that describes that. And I guess every team would, probably be promoting their own approach, right? But the point is ACL then gets the submissions and, by picking the 2 winners, has the bones of a way forward in terms of actually making some kind of national network happen that's standards based. And again, I keep bumping into TEFCA because it sounds like that's what TEFCA is trying to do. Maybe this is a use case for TEFCA, but is that a good readback of goal 1, or am I missing something in a major way?
So I guess, Seth, I was following along with you until you brought up TEFCA. TEFCA is just a participants agreement, right? And it has some infrastructure. And one of the features of TEFCA might be a directory like this. But I don't think that, I've never seen anything that tells me that this intersects with the RCE or anything.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but if you have a network of QHINs and QHIN participants and all that, then what do you need this for? Wouldn't that be sufficient?
There's different layers. I think part of this is that you could think through if you want to use that model on how it can apply to social referrals. Because right now TEFCA does not.
So maybe, okay, I just,
okay. Yeah,
I just keep throwing that in there. So.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Seth, up until this point, I haven't thought that it was see what I want to say.
So
there was a bullet.
I didn't say TEFCA, so throw TEFCA out. So
yeah.
Everything else I said was like passes the smell test in terms of was that a correct readback of goal 1 minus TEFCA?
Yeah.
But the end, right, the output of this, what we're submitting is design information, artifacts, recommendations on how to build something that maximizes the score based on these criteria.
Yes,
exactly.
That's
it's
a
called
good way to
bonus
put
because
it.
it's external to what's in the scope of the rest of the phases in my mind.
Right, and that's what I was going to say, is that you're not necessarily tied to using the exact, scope or solutions or team members or stakeholders that you have outlined in phases 1 and 2. Those would be totally separate. We'll welcome you all to be, collaborative with other partners that it makes sense for these bonus phase goals. So it's sort of separate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. And Aaron, I think you and I are in sync here.
Kate, could we go back, or Bloom, do you have something? I'm sorry, I thought you might be saying something. Oh, it's your cat. I thought you were raising your hand, Greg. I saw this and I was like, oh, I better shut up. Can we go back to the first slide? I want to walk through this one more time and make sure I'm tracking. Is this the first one? This is the first one.
The governance one?
Yeah, governance. I'm sort of struggling with the emphasis on varying governance models. Every governance model is different.
Yeah.
For every location. What did you mean?
Well, how I would kind of describe that, and Ami and Evelyn can fill in or correct me where So some places are doing the kind of a statewide approach that might be having a statewide governance model, really defining the oversight, the accountability, the participation, the rules of engagement, and the roles and responsibilities of different technical organizations and community organizations and healthcare organizations. Some are down actually to the city or county level, and they might have their own specific governance model. So you might have very specific data use agreements, roles, responsibilities at the county level, but you might want to start to expand and scale that. So it might be community driven, some might be more state policy driven, or some might be at the national level with QHINs, but there's a lot of these things that are going to be more locally driven, especially if you look at the proposals with the ACL social referral platform challenge. So a lot of them are at kind of the city and county level and not at the statewide level, but scaling up to a national level. How are you going to really approach the different governance models, coordinating these models, and taking into consideration that just because your solution is one solution doesn't mean it's the only solution. How are we going to be dealing with those different governance models? Evelyn and Ami, is that fair, or am I still speaking in riddles?
Oh, and we also, no, thanks, Dave. They're also in the document that's in the link. There's just different examples are listed.
There's more examples, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the technical architecture, the way that I understand the word governance, should support all of those models if it was designed correctly.
Yeah, and I also think about the different governance models being like an organizational or institutional governance. That's how all the organizations are working together. Then there's almost the the information governance of all the data use agreements, and then the data governance and how are you actually doing the data management and reconciliation and all those types of things. So governance can have different ways to approach those different things.
Got it. The word community in the next bullet, is that a CBO, or are you saying? I don't really know what the object of the sentence is. Who is the community? And what are the inclusion and exclusion criteria?
So that's I can answer that if that's
Please.
helpful. In a resource directory database, one of the important policies is what can go in. What is a resource?
Okay.
And those policies vary from community to community.
Yeah.
They vary according to governance models.
Yeah.
And if you were trying to develop some sort of resource directory information sharing system, accommodating a diversity of inclusion and exclusion criteria is going to be one of the challenges. I'm not sure how critical that challenge is because the idea is to exchange, but certainly it should be addressed.
Sure. So we could replace the word community with resource, and the sentence would still be valid.
Yep. I think the only reason, one way to kind of think about also about community is how are you defining what is your community? Is it going to be one healthcare organization to one CBO? Are you looking across a geographic community? Are you looking across like a region, say, I don't know.
But I'm not sure. All right, I got it. I guess I get it. All right. So who do we allow to be federated would be driven by that policy. Mm-hmm. And there would be some approval process for that. All right, I get it. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I could look at the next slide and do the same thing, but go, I'm kidding.
Let me jump, I'll do the second goal just to, in case you all have similar questions. So I will do mapping taxonomy. So similar to the directory to directory exchange, they're weighted with governance, really important. So you're going to see a trend, governance. And then next is the coded terminology and taxonomy mapping. Followed by demonstration use of the nationally recognized standards, technical architecture, and quality assurance and control. Next slide. So I'll go through all of them again and have my notes here in case questions come up. So the first one, governance. So first is how will you define current priority use cases for mapping coded terminologies and taxonomies. Appendix does have two examples of use cases for each of the goals, but we're looking to you to define those. They may be different. So those are examples. The next is defining data governance process and change management for data sources and target systems with existing data contributors and receivers. So this very much focused on data governance, and then business processes for data source systems and target systems. And then lastly, describe current or planned approach to data profiling and mapping using a common data model. So these are all the things that need to happen to support analytics and data management. So here is your opportunity to describe how. So I call this the how. Next slide. Next is the quality piece, 10%, so a smaller amount, but again, how will you describe your approach to concept identifiers and for business processes for quality assurance and control of map data for quality control? So there is a relationship between this criteria and the first one, but it's going down to a deeper level to actually quality assurance. Next slide. So this one's big, demonstration use of standards. And these are clinical terminologies. Again, very important if you are exchanging data with a health system that will use this. So describe current capabilities and planned approach for defining data concepts using industry standards. And these are coded vocabulary. So listed here, commonly used LOINC, CPT, SNOMED, ICD-10, and HCPCS. For your challenges, you are very much focused on referrals, which is a type of intervention, but there are other interventions, right? So that's why you see SNOMED twice. The other interventions could be education, counseling, there could be procedures. We think of right now, we're seeing a lot of it. When we think of transportation, there's models emerging where the clinical provider can order a transportation service. So it's not a referral, it's not counseling, it's actually an order. So there's some models that are allowing that now. And then of course you have billing code. So this is again, how you will do how, describe current capabilities and planned approach. Next one, next slide. So this is, I say, the meat of this goal. How will you map to one or more vocabularies to another to reuse the data? So we've heard from all of you, we hear constantly with our Gravity community, the current gap where everyone uses a different language, a different taxonomy. So here's an opportunity for you to describe how you will do that. How will you map when one system speaks one language and the other one speaks another, right? They're not going to change what language they use, but they still need to work with one another. So this is your opportunity to define or describe your ability to convert codes and values, describe your abilities or approach to rules-based engine services to ensure and improve reliability and reusability of the data. And lastly, describe your capabilities or approach to access standardized core clinical terminologies in electronic health records and use of high quality terminology maps that are accepted by payers, providers, and CBOs. So the last one's a heavy one. We know that is still emerging. Again, no one's doing this right now. They're thinking about it, lots of discussion. Next slide. Second last is technical architecture, 20% of judging criteria. Describe the current architecture for terminology mapping and taxonomy mapping. Describe your approach to evolve this architecture, identifying integration points and reusing existing networks. So this is not around rip and replace of what already exists. It's also an opportunity because many of the existing infrastructures are mature, as we've learned from Greg. And we are not here to replace them, but how can we integrate them, right? So what architecture needs to evolve to support that? And then identify current and planned integration points and methods for new endpoints, such as FHIR. So as we have more of the clinical ecosystem adopt FHIR-based exchange and have FHIR endpoints, how will it evolve within the community? Again, very important, the community you select to support this data exchange. Next slide. Okay, so I'll pause. If we go back to the last one, I think if you have questions. All right, I'll go back. So I wasn't looking at them. Okay, so Greg, you're asking, so these two, directory federation versus Technot, are separate challenges. They're separate goals. One applicant could submit two separate proposals, correct? Yes, they're distinct goals.
Yeah, they're separate goals, but you can submit one proposal for both, or one proposal for each. We try to keep them separate, but understand that you may want to propose something for both.
Okay, I think Greg, right? I think you've all answered. Okay, so I think you've answered each other there. Anything else I missed, or did it need to clarify before we open it up?
One thing,
Okay.
well, you said that nobody's doing this today, right? So in the controlled terminologies of the fire domain, we're all to publish, system URIs that describe our internal coding. And then the question is, if Greg's coding, he's got numerics 1 through 10, and I'm using the equivalent, but it's in, bytes, right? 0001 through 10. How do we map those? And that's a terminology service.
Yes.
So I'm drawing a little bit of a blank why you say that isn't happening today, other than maybe it's not happening within.
Right.
the
It's not,
SDOH
yeah,
community.
exactly. It's it's our mapping right now. They do this all the time.
Yeah, this is workaday stuff, right?
Exactly. They're not mapping because they're not mapping social care or social
code
risk
sets haven't
because we
been
just
done yet.
started. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I got it. Can I copy and paste it out of the fire specs?
Fire specs does have it. You are correct.
Copying and pasting minus 10 points. No.
Oh shoot! I never got through college.
Actually, no, the fire IG does have a whole section on mapping.
Yeah.
So
Good. So at one point I thought I read maybe a PDF that Amy sent out, and I thought there was a requirement to produce open source code. And maybe that was just me misreading it.
Karen, you're talking about for the bonus phase? Bonus? Okay.
I think so. Is that no longer right, or was that wrong all along?
There was a mention of open source in the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's see. The objective for the Directory Federation addresses open source components to enable blah, blah, blah. I think that's maybe what you were thinking.
Yeah, when I first read that, I thought there was going to be sort of like, Greg would write this really great Federation product for me to incorporate into my solutions, and I would just grab the open source code and be done. But this sounds like more like a design, collaborative group design effort.
but there are open source solutions out there, so it's also for you to think that through.
Okay.
And that's where we can, encourage you all to work together, maybe, if it makes sense, right? If Greg wants to pull together a team, maybe that makes sense.
I guess when I heard people introduce themselves, I didn't really, has anyone started doing this on their projects? Like, is there teams is every team doing that? I know we're doing it, Seth, of course. Are we though? Who else is?
Yeah, I'm working with the ServiceNet initiative, and we're exploring this over the next couple months. The taxonomy problem is actually a lot harder. We're really just focusing on the directory problem. I would love to hear people's thoughts on the taxonomy problem. And we've already been approached by other organizations outside of the ACL context who want to sort of potentially join our cohort, which we're considering the implications. It won't be for like this round, but potentially if it advanced, we could expand the set of stakeholder groups that we're working with. If somebody here is interested in working on this problem but doesn't want to try to lead a whole new initiative to do something that's really difficult, I would honor that impulse, and I would welcome a conversation with y'all if you're interested in being a part of something but not trying to lead the development of something.
Who funds what you're doing, and who's governing it? What your service now is? Did you say service now?
ServiceNet.
I'm an old guy. The hairs in my ears are dead.
Yeah, it's my partners at Benetech started it. They're advising on a transition that we're going to explore options for how it will be governed during this this phase 1 process.
ServiceNet.
They piloted it in the Bay Area, had a basically successful alpha product. But I'll tell y'all from the start, there are tools that can be built from this, but this is largely a governance problem.
Yeah.
This is 20% technology, 20% design, and 60% people talking to each other.
Yeah.
I know we've got 8 minutes left. I just want to make sure Ami has some time to go through any of the, sorry, the previous slide. If you had any questions on the submission criteria, Ami, anything you want to say here?
Yeah, just really quickly. So we won't be using the same platform that you all are used to using for your phase 1 and phase 2 submissions. So just keeping in mind that this will be more of just a narrative approach and a submission via a PDF format that can be emailed to us. And then you'll see there that we are hoping to award at least 2 teams at $100,000 each. Again, it could be just goal 1, just goal 2, or both goals. We welcome both approaches. But yeah, just maybe another 2 minutes or so if we want to keep chatting about the bonus phase, or if there's any other questions there before we shift to phase 2.
Just one more question, like other than Greg, is anyone else in the scope of their work for the ACL challenge federating multiple directories from referral platforms that wants to have a chat at some point?
Yeah,
Share
this is
ideas?
Teresa Gerard. I had Benetech ServiceNet in my original submission. So I'm actually working on a couple of different options to that to be able to meet this kind of timeline, given that, Greg is on a longer timeline for like next year. So yeah, we'd be happy to visit on that.
Great.
A quick question on the bonus phase. Does a team have to submit, a phase 1 winner have to submit a phase 2 submission to submit for the bonus goals?
No, so the bonus phase is not connected in any way. So it's completely volunteer based. It's up to the teams if they want to participate or submit in the bonus phase. Or again, if you want to work kind of across teams and work together with each other for the bonus phase, it's a totally separate submission. And each of the phases will be judged completely separately as well. So does that help?
Quick follow-up.
Yes, and then the quick question on that too. Will you be looking at perhaps putting teams together like you did with the phase 1 collaboratives within a bonus phase?
Yeah, I think that could definitely be an opportunity. So if we get a couple of submissions on goal 1 where it might make sense for teams to collaborate. But again, right at this point, the bonus phase is just one submission where we just have an award for submitting the concept. What happens after that is going to be something that we kind of talk with the teams with and better understand, are there opportunities to use that award to then do some sort of demonstration or presentation of a solution? That's something we'll do with the teams after they're awarded. So there could be more potential for collaboration. Yeah.
All right, good. And then is there a possibility to mark portions of the bonus phase as confidential, because there will be some intellectual property that could be under, NDAs?
Yeah, absolutely. So it can be shared with us in a secure way, or I can kind of talk with you offline about whether NDAs need to be involved. That's something we can work with with our broader sort of challenge team and challenge.gov team to better understand if it would be necessary. But yeah, if it comes to that point, definitely just reach out to us and we could talk more about it.
And I would just add, you don't have to have the same teams too. So also an opportunity is that if you have somebody else or another partner that you didn't partner with before, right, Ami, that they're also can bring in other partners.
Right, absolutely.
So
Let's say that Seth will get rid of me.
Nobody's getting rid of anybody.
Is this open to applications from groups that are not in the ACL round 1 or round 2? It is. Is that?
No, it's open. Sorry, Ami, you could explain.
Yeah. Well, we'd expect that the current challenge participants would be the lead for submitting, but if you want to bring on other partners that have interest or may have a place in kind of meeting any one of these goals, we welcome that. But there has to be some participation from current team members. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It totally does. So the pool of potential lead applicants are the ACL round 1 awardees. Although we could bring in other partners into that mix. Okay.
So
Right,
Greg,
because
are
we
you
did
gonna
we did not post this as a brand new challenge competition. It's not open to the public. It's this has only been shared with current participants. So
I just like a clarification, because are you, Greg, participating in this call as an EMI advisor providing technical assistance, or are you an awardee?
Yeah, I'm representing the ServiceNet project.
Okay.
Which
good to know.
Partner organizations are leading, but I'm representing that. Yeah. And yeah, I'll just reiterate, if anybody's interested in sort of thinking about this together, I would love to find ways to cooperate. We're probably not going to be interested in cooperating with people who are going to treat this as a proprietary endeavor. We're trying to solve this problem in a way that works for the whole industry. But if you are on board with open source development, working in the open, and you want to think about this, we want to talk to you.
So could somebody just tell me, like, this solution is built, right? And it's been deployed. What is different about how social services are used in the Bay Area? Like, I'm trying to figure out what would be the Amazon press release when we're successful and this is out. From the end user's perspective, there's just one endpoint to do discovery, regardless of which referral platform it happens to be related to.
Or maybe the inverse, which is regardless of which referral platform you go to, the same information is available.
Okay. It's just federated directory solutions. Yep. And there's kind of this talk here, I guess, a little bit about community-based vetting or something. I wasn't sure what that really meant. Like, if you're federating somebody else's data, you don't necessarily have the authority to change their data, but you can annotate it. Right?
I just wanted to do a time check-in. I'm Gabriela, your host for this afternoon. We are a little bit at the top of the hour. Amy, I know we have a few slides left. Would you like us to continue or continue to take questions?
no, we can move forward, and I think we can definitely continue discussion on this and maybe gather the group again. I'm really excited to hear the interest, the excitement in the bonus phase. So we had anticipated some time to talk about phase 2, but you all have already had your office hours, and hopefully that has been helpful. I think if we could go to just one more slide real quick. The next slide, again, just want to reiterate that we have a new deadline for phase 2, which is November 3rd. And then also wanted to share with you all that we actually plan to award up to 4 teams this time, because we recognize that you all have different use cases, you're supporting different projects. And so we want to make sure we see some successful projects in different regions, different communities. So keep that in mind, that there's more teams that can be awarded here for phase 2. So don't want to confuse anything. This has been a great conversation about the bonus phase. But of course, you all know how to reach us if you have questions on any of the phases or want to kind of continue this opportunity to collaborate amongst each other. So yeah, I think we really appreciate everyone's time in the discussion today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone, and you have our email too, if you have any questions, so we'll respond. Yeah.
Right. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. We'll make a recording available as well and a copy of the slide deck. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.